Hey, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to this week's podcast on the road to happiness. I'm here with the lovely Naseem and myself, Shafina. So we're going to go ahead and get started on this week's episode. And I have a few questions.
Sure.
Now, you work with so many different types of people and, from all different areas and backgrounds. I wanted to ask, is it really important for people to match? Like, are matches better done when they are from the same place? Like,
Okay.
is that a really important thing?
So do you mean as in like someone lives in the same area or lives in the same country? Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, I suppose there's different areas. So, for example, if someone is okay, let's go about Pakistan. Okay, so I am from well, Gujarat, but I'm Patan. So, would you suggest that someone that would be best suited for me would must be from the same area background, so we have the same understanding?
I get where you come from.
Like, is
Okay,
that
but
really important? Is that like a? I mean, would you say to client? Do you get clients like that?
we do, and I
Okay.
think it's the straight answer is no. It should not be important. But I feel that a lot of conversations I have, and just this morning I was talking to a client who's from India,
Hmm.
from a specific spot in India. And she's like, well, if the person doesn't know I'm from this spot or doesn't understand I'm from this spot or doesn't understand the cultural beliefs of this spot, then it's unlikely that we're going to get on. So she's got a self-fulfilling prophecy of if this person doesn't, like if you talk about UK, it's not from my postcode, then it's not going to work. It's a came sort of thinking that the person must be from like the same postcode as me. And it's, in my opinion, it's definitely a mindset because that is not the only thing that you're looking for in your companion, right? You're looking for someone who cares about you. You're looking for someone who is going to respect you, who understands you, who wants to build a connection with you. And the biggest thing is someone who wants to try and work hard. So you could find somebody from your area within the same postcode, for example, but that person doesn't want to work at the marriage. They're not compatible with you. You don't have the same. They might understand the cultural beliefs that lie underneath. They'll have an
Mm.
understanding of that, but they don't understand you. They don't understand who you are. They don't understand how what your dreams and passions are for you to fulfill your life. Because you have an automatic respect, right, for someone
Mm.
who gets you, for someone who actually wants to help you and wants to help you achieve. What's your thoughts?
I mean, you've made it you've made a lot of sense. I got my words twisted this morning. You've made a lot of sense in terms of actually, would you go with someone just from your postcode? That's crazy. You're minimizing your chances completely. Putting it that way, I mean, this is why you're the expert, right? Putting it that way, just made so much sense. You just wouldn't do that. I mean, over here, we have people in different areas. At the moment, I'm currently in Leicester. You've got people in London always mixing, people up in Glasgow. There's so many different cities. So if someone isn't from your city, I guess England is totally different to like India. I'm, the cultures and stuff. So, but however, yeah, you wouldn't just stick with, okay, I'm only going to find someone in this postcode or this city. That doesn't make sense. So, yeah, there are bigger things because if you have someone from your city, what about everything else? Are they going to be respectful? They're going to understand you. And the thing is, everyone's different. Everyone has different understandings, right? Like you might get some people that both understand each other because they're similar from different postcodes. And then you can get people that are from the same postcode don't understand each other because they're differently individually. Yeah, so you explained that very well. I think I've
Yeah,
understood it.
yeah,
Hopefully the viewers have as well.
yeah. And on the back of that, it's looking for someone who you can gel with, who's instantly. So when we talk about matching in my environment, first thing we talk about is to build the connection. So a lot of people won't even build a connection, Shafina. They're like straight in for the jugular. Would you do this? Would you do that? Would you move here? Would you live here? Like all the stuff that it is important, but with somebody that you've built a connection with. So what they do is they bypass the connection and ask all the questions. And in asking the questions, they've just completely put the other person off. Like they're not interested in getting to know you at the end of it because you haven't allowed yourself to connect, build that connection, which is so important. building that connection on top of respect and trust. So just as a simple friendship, there's connection, respect, and trust. Now you have a foundation to ask a lot of questions that won't be awkward, that won't be out of time, that won't feel uncomfortable, because the person now has a connection with you, trusts and respects you to some degree.
Mm. Connection is important. I think,
Definitely.
yeah. So it doesn't really matter where someone's from. It depends on the connection that you have with that person for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so you're saying
And
connection.
again, just a quick question, just your own thoughts. People talk about if that person's far away, you know, they're not like in another city, or they're an hour's flight, or they're 5 hours drive. Like that's going to be harder to get to know that person. Tell me why you think that's the thing. Why do you think that's the thing?
That well, firstly, if I think that's a thing, I think that's the first thing. Uh, so your question is, tell me why it's a thing if people are really far away, that it's going to be difficult to get to know each other.
They think, their thought process. For
Okay.
example, like you met somebody who, I don't know, lives 50 miles from where you are, or lives 100 miles from where you are. Would that stop you trying to get to know them on a
Oh,
real basis?
no, it wouldn't. For
Okay.
me personally, it wouldn't. I mean, I don't mind driving or meeting people halfway. I'm always on the road. 50 miles, 100 miles is nothing to
Yeah.
get to know someone. You drive an hour?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not difficult at all. And if you wanted to save time because you're both busy, meet halfway.
Yeah. Yeah.
A coffee shop or something. So yeah, I don't think I don't think that's difficult. And if it is difficult, then that person probably, in my opinion, I'm not judging anyone. In my opinion, I feel that maybe they need to have a look at themselves and see if they are actually ready to want to be with somebody,
Yeah.
because it will take time and commitment. This is something that I'm learning myself. I'm on a sort of self-learning journey at the moment. And what I realized is actually when you are going into if you are going to settle down with someone or meet someone, I don't really like the term settle down because I feel like settle down has such a negative uh thing on in my mind anyway. That's
Change it to
online.
settle with. Change it to settle with.
Oh, yeah. Okay,
Settle
so
with. That's your choice. Yeah.
yeah,
Settle down almost means that you're just,
stuck down.
yeah, but then you're limited with your options. The person that you're choosing is a special and important person in your life, for sure.
Yeah.
You know.
So if you are planning to look for someone and you're thinking 50 miles to me is just, sorry, it's just funny because it's nothing in my opinion. So just an opinion, obviously. 50 miles is not difficult to go find someone. And if you can't take that time out to go find someone, then how are you expecting to even have a spouse? Because you're going to have to give time to that person.
Mhm.
Not have to, you're going to want to really. So if you can't even spend time to get to know uh, a person or invest that time, then how are you going to find someone or build that connection with someone? It's not getting married or finding that spouse isn't like ordering a pizza. It's going to take a little time. You're going to have to really take your time, build those connections, and then reflect as well. I feel, it's very easy to think, maybe see someone, think, yeah, that's the person for me. But then if you don't actually know the person, it takes time to get to know someone. And what I realize as well, for example, on the self journey, I'm taking time now to get to know myself a bit more and figure out who I want to be. And I'm kind of building before, I step forward onto anything else. And if it's taking me this much time to figure myself out, imagine trying to know someone else that you don't even live with, you've never known with, you never stepped in their own shoes. So
Yeah.
that's like a huge realization.
Yeah. Totally. And then you've got the time versus money. So I've had so many conversations with, I'm in Glasgow, this person's in London, or I'm in Edinburgh, this person's in Newcastle, or whatever. I'm in Manchester, this person's in London, whatever. Like there's so many variations. But again, the mindset is this self-belief that time versus money. So I'm not going to travel. Somebody else will come along local. By then, you've added another 2 years or 3 years or 5 years of your life. Now, putting your effort in, yeah, you've got to spend money. Let's be honest. You have to spend that money if you want to have that result. It's on anything. If you want to get to the gym, you've got to pay membership, right? You're not just going to be able to show up at the gym. If you want to use the service, you have to pay money. And the people who put their money down, saying that, look, I'm putting my money where my mouth is and I want this. I'm willing to pay for it. This is important to me. And I speak to people in their late 30s, 40s all the time that have never got married. And part of the process, when I hear the stories, part of the process is, well, I did get to know this person, but he was too far away. And, he didn't come to see me. I didn't come to see. Establish the connection. If you have put effort, for example, there's an individual, be it lady, be it gent, let's call it a lady for example purposes. She likes somebody, he's, I don't know, 80 miles away. Now, if the phone communication is going well, the text communication is going well, once a fortnight, as you said, you can meet halfway, you can go, plan it in advance. If you buy your ticket at the beginning of the month, it's going to be far cheaper, which I've realized to my detriment, flying up and down to London all the time. I'm like, oh my God, I better book my next flight. Because if you book it a few days before, it's like 90% more expensive, right? So if you know you're going, pick the date, do all of your organization. If you're like me, you can just pick up your keys and drive, then why not? Do you get me? But my point is, if you don't make those steps and you don't put those actions into place, then that result is never going to happen. And you can't blame it on the distance. It's the effort that goes in.
Yeah.
You could have somebody 10-minute drive away from you, but if you don't put the effort in, nothing's going to happen. People say, oh, it's much easier. You can make more coffees. You can do this. Not really. The end of the day, you could then spend that so much time on that local person. And then when it actually comes to talking about the serious stuff, once you get past the first 5, 6 conversations, say, where is this person going? What does this person want of life? Maybe they don't want what you want. So therefore, it falls apart anyway. And there is diversity really helps. So if you are going to look at somebody who's further away from you and you think, you know what, fine, let me look at this person. Does this person, do I see this person's reliable, respectful, responsible, and I think yourself and I, we have a different mindset because we're quite international in the way of thinking. There's no stranger to like put your car details and book a flight, go where you're going. Whereas a lot of people do stay within their own city and they like, if they are leaving the city, it's like a big plan or it's their annual holiday or something. So it does have to do with lifestyle as well, I suppose. But to make that decision to get to know whoever that person is, as long as you see that there is some type of connection that could happen, and then not exploring it as a complete disservice to yourself, I think. So having that time versus money and time versus travel and time versus locality, it's looking at all of it because all you're doing is every minute, every day, every week, every month, every year, you're getting older and you're spending life on your own. When if you want, I mean, some people are happy being on their own, and that's fine too. I'm not saying that, but if it's your need, you tomorrow want to have a family, you want to sit and have dinner with your family on a Sunday, and even if it's not quantity time, you want to give them quality time. That's still great, but it's, do you want that? And I think sometimes I feel that most single people who speak to me haven't really evaluated how much their life will change and how much independence they'll need to take away from their life to be then dependent. I think to be dependent for a lot of people, men and women, is a scary space. That's what I find out from the hundreds of interviews I do all day long.
Wow, there's a lot of insights in there. And I feel like am I frozen here? This connection. There's a lot of insights in there, and it is true. It is a matter of opinion and mindset. I think people do need to be aware. I myself included, there's all lessons that I'm learning, obviously through support through yourself, that there will be a lot of changes and differences, and you're sharing your space with someone, and time will be taking up. And yes, when you're getting to know someone, money and time, I suppose money more side on the guy. If I would hope the men step up and this is my way of thinking, and pay, because they're going to be the provider. If you're going to expect the woman to pay for things, it's a bit,
yeah,
in my opinion, obviously.
And I respect your opinion completely. But what I think Me
Mm,
personally, I think is if you're working and you're earning
yeah.
and you want to get married, you should take that response. Yes, after marriage, maybe you want to pool your money together. Maybe your husband says, "Look, this is
Mm,
all me. You do your thing. You decide what companion you want." But on your journey as a single person, I
yeah.
think that you need to put the effort in yourself, into your health, into
Oh,
your
100%.
into your mindset, into your opportunities, into your communication. And then, yeah, if you need to travel, food, whatever, don't expect as a single person to somebody else to do that for you. But yes, if it's moving forward to engagement, it's moving forward to marriage, then that's a whole other ball game. Then that's where the ball tips to the other side, I would say.
Yes, I hear you on that one. I definitely hear you on that one. Yes. No, I mean like I myself, I like look after myself and everything. And I suppose if I was going meeting someone or something, I would offer I guess I wouldn't offer, but I would, attempt to go pay or whatever, as you would, or take turns maybe or something like that. But I feel like it's a really good quality when the man's like, no, I've got it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I find that a really good thing, not like, okay, sure, you can pay this time. Like, I don't know. It just does, it's just something that's with me, I suppose. But I would, I always offer, but we'll see how it goes. Anyway, that's a whole other topic altogether. Um,
We
so
digress. We
so so the main sorry.
I said we digress. We digress.
Yes, we do. We do. There's so much to talk about, Naseem and I. So the main point is that it's not probably the best idea if you are thinking, hey, I'm from this area in this specific town or something like that, and I'm only going to be with someone from that specific town. It's probably not the best thought process, because there's some people in your own town, in your own neighborhood, you're not next door neighbor, but are you going to be so connected with them because you live in the same place? I mean, how close can you get? It's just not very, I don't like to use the R word, so it's just not very practical. It doesn't make any sense if we think about it. So if you are one of those people that thinking about it, maybe reevaluate it and have a think about it in terms of actually, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And sometimes we have these thoughts. Obviously, we're not like taking on anyone or anything like that, but they're like life. Obviously, we come into life, we don't really know everything. We don't know anything. And so you're learning as you go along. You're always learning. And even today, Nassim, you mentioned something before this podcast, and I was like, oh, I learned something new, about a different topic. And I was like, oh, thank you. It's nice, always educating and learning. So yeah, it doesn't matter what city you're from. And I was just thinking about my talking. I was talking to someone yesterday, and I was just explaining how I was doing these videos. And I was like, yeah, I do an English accent, and I switched into it. And they just looked at me and smiled, like, you know, I,
I
you know
love
what,
your English accent. It's amazing.
well, I'm glad you do. So I said to them, I was like, yeah, I was doing these videos and I switched and I physically switched into it. And the person would just smile and was like, oh, whoa. And I'm like, yeah. So the thing is, like, even with myself, you can connect with so many different places. You've moved around in life, and where you're from exactly shouldn't really matter. It depends who you are as an individual. So
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for a connection, you got to connect with that person. You could be from anywhere in the world, I feel.
Mm, definitely. Bonus point,
Yeah.
Shavina.
Gee.
If if what's important to you that happens in your environment is important. So, for example, maybe people in your community are more what's the word, reserved, or maybe they're more quiet, or there's like a lot more sort of traditional culture, small things like men sit in this room, women sit in that room, or we do things this way, or we have this kind of approach to life. Honestly, when you get to know someone and you've built that connection and you're building that trust and respect, you can say, what do you think about this? And how do you feel about that? Is that something you'd be open to? Is there something that you understand? And just ask the questions directly once you've built the respect, the trust, and the connection, because you might get an answer. The person might say, well, actually, do you know what? I don't do that, but it doesn't really bother me. Like it's something that wouldn't affect our relationship. And if it meant that this it would make life easy for you, do you know what? I'd be open to that. You don't know. But no one's going to be open to anything if you're going to go straight with the clipboard, right? This is what I need from you situation. And I don't know how many feedbacks I get. that like it doesn't matter how much coaching we do, we still get people just go into that. It's like a default mode. Let me just ask my questions, because if I ask my questions, then you're going to be instantly more interesting. Yeah.
I've had another golden nugget from you today just now in what you just said.
Excellent, excellent. So yeah, so let's do a recap then. What do you think has been the key sort of eureka moments for you today?
Well, firstly, I know that someone doesn't have to be from a specific area from where you're from. That one doesn't sort of apply to me because I have lived in so many different cities and different countries that I don't even know where I'm from anymore. So what I've realized is I'm probably gonna have to be with someone that's international. I
Yeah.
relate better. I know for a fact, for me personally, there's no way I can be with someone specifically just from England. That's something that I've learned on my journey, on my own
Okay.
personal.
Okay.
It's difficult for me to connect, and the connections that I have made through friends are not actually just from England.
Mm-hmm.
That's a realization for myself.
Yeah.
So if anyone's thinking, where you think you're from and stuff, and also just a quick thing, if the person from saying that they're from a specific town in India, but they're living in UK, they're not really from that town anymore. So they
We
probably,
had this chat. Remember, we had this chat. You're from the place that you've lived the longest. So even if you were born in a city, let's say you're born in, I don't know, India, but then you've lived and you came to the UK, I don't know, 15, now you're whatever age. You've been in the UK for what, 20 years, for example, 25 years. You're no longer Indian because you are from the place that you've lived the longest. Did you know
I learned something new again.
that?
I'm gonna, I'm gonna get a clipboard out for myself after this podcast and sit there and be like, right, where did I live for this many years and this many months? And I'm gonna check every city that I've moved to and keep moving to, and then I'll figure out where I'm actually from.
Yeah.
So
So mine's is easy, Scotland, because I was born in England and I left at like age 9. And then obviously since then I've been traveling up and down the country everywhere. But I've lived majority of my life in Glasgow. So I'm
all right.
Glaswegian. I did spend some time in Dundee, so I was Dundonian for a while, but I'm officially Glaswegian. I figured it out.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll get there soon and we'll figure this out maybe in this podcast. So yeah, I think that was one of the main things here. And then also for the fact that connections are really important. It's so important to make that connection with the person, and it takes time. So these little coffee meetups that you meet, it's a good place, I feel like, to analyze, not analyze, but you just to observe as well and see how you feel. I feel like when you take your time with it, instead of going in with that checklist and da 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 da, I feel that people need to be more open to actually taking some time, getting to know the person. And also, one of the things that we spoke about, we didn't talk about it on this podcast, but to know someone through 4 seasons.
That's something that's came up in our previous conversations, I remember.
Yes, 4 seasons, because that's a whole year, basically.
Yeah.
4 seasons, the,
Yeah.
the whole,
So,
whole
so
season.
if you're going to make so look at the maths on it, Shafina. If you're going to make a 50-year commitment to this person, why would you not get to know them at least a year before you made that 50-year commitment? Why would you not do that?
I have a question. This is a bit, I know we're going to tie up here. Can you get to know more than one person at a time? Would you suggest that?
In all honesty, if it's initial conversations, 1 or 2 conversation, first or second conversation, maybe because you don't know like who you're going to have a second, third conversation with. But maybe once, if you've exchanged numbers or you've met this person more than 2-3 times for coffee, let's say quite early doors within the first few days, few weeks, very early on, then yeah, maybe you might have 2-3 conversations or 3-4 conversations. But once you've established connection, I was telling you that respect and that trust, and you've exchanged numbers and you're communicating daily, then I would make it very verbal to the person that you're talking to that, look, I'm not actually, you don't have to say it exclusive or anything like that, but making them aware that, look, I'm not talking to anyone else. And obviously, I'm speaking to you for what it is I'm talking to you about. So my end result is marriage, whether that's, 6 months, a year down the line, because obviously it can't be your way or the highway. But you can explain. So if you explain and say, look, this is a reason why I think even the planning stages, even if you're planning a wedding or planning different, you still should have that year before your nikah is right. That's just like my opinion with, the over 4,000 people that we've matched so
Wow.
far, like experience and the 25 years that I bring to the table in relationships. But I definitely do think that being able to relax at that level and being able to understand when you've had your little rumbles, everybody has them, and you know that, okay, we had that bit of a something, we fixed it, I've apologized or he's apologized, and I feel good now. So if we had that again, the fear factor of like if we had an argument, or if we had an issue, or if we had a fight, how would we resolve that? Like, how would that get fixed? Because all of this, just as you said, endless coffee meetings, right? You like pink, I like blue, you like this, you like that. It's just general service conversations. And from those surface conversations, you end up committing to someone for life and you haven't asked your important questions. And through these podcasts, I'm hoping that as people are watching and listening, they will take golden nuggets away and think, I need to do this. If I want to get married, I need to be able to have this thought process or ask these questions, because you don't want to be part of the 70% of people who don't last in marriages. 70% of marriages do not last. This
70%.
is an official fact in 2023. So, marriages, if it's important to you, find someone else, but marriage is important to them as well. Yeah. So I think that's a maybe a
That
good note to end on, inshallah. So yeah, so thank you everyone for listening to us today on the road to happiness. Um, we've got the link below if you want to send us any questions. We always look at the comments and topics to bring up the next questions. And yeah, and there's lots of new things coming up. So watch your space, inshallah. Thank you so much. See you next Tuesday.
Thank you so much for taking the time out to listen to this podcast. If you found this beneficial, give this video a like and hit the subscribe button to be notified for the next episode.